Transfiguration Sunday. Now, one of the things I always warn people on Transfiguration Sunday is that mountaintop experiences in the Bible have a definite coming down the mountain experience with them. There is no great mountaintop experience with God that does not include a long, hard journey ahead. So if you've been praying for that close mystical experience and you've been thinking that you want that mountaintop experience, I warn you to be careful. When God calls people to the mountaintop, that usually means God has a plan. And it might not be the one you have. When Jesus comes down that mountain, he sets his face towards Jerusalem and his death. When Moses comes down that mountain, he comes down to a group of people whom he is supposed to be leading, who have turned against him and everything he has taught them. And he has to get it back together and try to get them back on task. Everybody who gets to go to mountaintops gets a job. So on the one hand, we all talk about wanting this wonderful mystical experience, but the mystical experience tends to come with a second piece. Just a warning. So on Transfiguration Sunday, we have this high mountaintop experience, and then we go through Lent so that we can practice dying, folks. That's what you do in Lent. So that you can come back out on Easter and feel closer to God. A week ago, a number of us met with the Associate Conference Minister. Marvin came down and he had a good meeting with us. And one of the things we discovered in that meeting is that we were not very good at saying who we were. Coming up with who St. John's is and what we're about, and giving a voice to that was not something we were able to do. So as I played with that thought and played with Lent and played with the idea of what do we need to do personally and collectively as we think about this Lent time, I decided that the image I was going to play with this Lent was that of being transformed. In fact, the image I'm going to use is that of being in our chrysalis. Now, if you think about it, as caterpillars go into the chrysalis, they have no idea what's going to happen. They walk in, and to them, one of the reasons why we use butterflies as a symbol at Easter is because of the fact that they have no idea how that transformation will take place. And there's something about it, they got to do it, but it makes no sense. Really? Wind yourself up in silk and just stay there? Makes no sense. But they need that time to be transformed. And I would argue that one of the reasons why we don't know how to define who we are right this minute is we've been in the midst of our cocoon for a while. We're not really caterpillars getting there. Just look at where we're worshiping. We had an idea of who we were when we had a parking lot, and we thought we could come whenever we wanted to the building, and we thought that it would all work, and we thought we knew. And now we've been in a period when things haven't been the way we are used to. And we really don't know what transformation looks like. Like the caterpillars, we can try to have ideas of what might come next, but we really don't know when we get parking back how people are going to like it or not like it. We assume everybody's going to be excited, right? We don't know. We assume it's going to work when we go back upstairs. It's an assumption. We assume lots of things about how things were and how things will be. And I think in our own lives, in this world that we live in, we do the same thing. We assume. We assume. How many of you thought about Lent maybe in the back of your mind and remembered what you did last year and just assumed you knew what you wanted to do this year? But I'm going to invite you to do something different. And I'm going to invite you to, first of all, find somebody to be paired up with. Ideally, not your spouse. Ideally, not the person who's your best friend. You know what I'm saying. I want you to pair up with someone. As we begin to think about preparing for Lent, these are the questions I want you to talk about. Do you like or dislike change? What is one way in which you would like to be transformed, changed, to be more like the person you desire to be? And is one way you are sensing that God would like to transform or change you? Note, we do not assume that God's desire and yours are the same. So I will give you 2 minutes to talk each. So it's 4 minutes altogether. So in 2 minutes, I'll tell you to switch. So match up. I've been asked to repeat the questions. Question 1, do you like change? Question 2 is how do you want to transform yourself? How would you like to change yourself? Question 2 is what do you think God would like to change in you?
I like change. I want to fight me more. I like change because you have to adapt. You have to change because life So question number 2 is, and that kind of goes with everything else. I know I can get a lot of foods don't like traditional.
What I like
Because I know, like, when we sold the market, and what they're going to do, what else is and that's
Question number 2 again, please.
Question number 2 is, what do you want to change in yourself? Question number 3 is, what do you think God wants to change?
Okay, that's good.
If you have not already switched who is talking and who is listening, you should switch now.
It's a conversation.
well, I mean, well, I think, let's go back. Some people went on and we sacrificed some things that are mine that are already
All right, your turn.
I just like the opportunities are to do more things non-real with
That's all. It's a hard question, we don't want to make changes in our lives a lot of times because we are comfortable with
what God would want to change.
where we're at.
Probably the question
No, reframe that as self-expression.
Well, I have 91
Thoughts, yes.
I do
And I'll take mine fault.
we don't know. It was after a breakup, it was a decision.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, like, give me a place on my own, or
I don't think I have the imagination.
my siblings.
That's probably
Way above my birthday grade.
And I had my sister's 13.
Let the instruction book follow that.
So I was just surprised. And so
Gosh, we did good, didn't we? We did good.
So, I decided to go back because me and my mom, my dad died. I was
So it was a couple minutes.
because the sisters were out of the house in Mary. And so me and my mom was married. Caregiving aspect, and I'm very blessed. I'm retired. She only lives about 10 minutes from us. I have a brother in Holland Springs who comes to visit.
I'm going to bring you back together now. Come back. I hate to cut off your conversations, but we'll have coffee hour soon. Now, here's the challenge in this. As we think about Lent and what our Lenten discipline needs to be, it's not the answer to what you want to change. Our Lenten discipline is about us being closer to God. So when you thought about what God would like for you, how God would like to be able to celebrate you as beloved. That's the piece that should lead you to understanding what you are called to spend time focusing on for the next 40 days. So I invite you to think about that for a second. How can you walk into God's call to you? What would that look like for you in the next 40 days? This Sunday, Transfiguration Sunday, is about finding the strength through those wonderful stories of mountaintop to be willing to enter the journey, to be willing to commit ourselves to doing the work during the next 40 days. That we can be ready to answer the call of being transformed at Easter. The plan here at St. John's is that, like today, you're going to get chances to talk each week during the sermons. We're going to do that thing again. I have done it to you before. But we're going to do that thing again this Lent to help us clarify, both as community and individuals, our walk with one another. So we give thanks for the journey ahead. And I invite you to commit yourself to truly making this Lent a time when you can be transformed into all that God asks you to be. Because as God said, He's my beloved. Would you listen to Him? Let us come together and sing the next hymn.